Chief's words continue to ring through even episodes after his death. There's never any shame in wanting to survive. Those words have been a pretty relevant theme ever since I think he introduced them to the series, and Chief is without a doubt, I think, the most memorable Megalo Box character, someone who's only around for a very small amount of episodes in a series with 26 episodes, yet continues to influence the plot and just the whole Nomad hummingbird story. I mean, I made my theories last week. I was walking into this episode thinking I was going to be proven wrong, that I said that Joe was the hummingbird for Mac's story, but also that because we have Chief and Joe wearing Chief's gear, that Chief would still be the hummingbird for Joe, the Nomad story. So both of them would be led home. The hummingbird would lead the Nomad back home. And I walked in this episode thinking someone would still die. I was confident in my theories, but I also completely understood the red flags were there. The writing was on the wall. And when I saw Hsieh throw in the towel, when I saw Mac not go into Mac time, but fight with his own skill set, not only did I come out appreciating the writing in this season all the more, because rather than going that cliche route, oh, we introduce a plot mechanic Mac time. That is how Joe will lose, and that's how Joe would die. I think people would feel rather cheated in certain ways, while you could definitely write it in a way that would work. I mean, a lot more people would probably be pissed off that a mechanic that wasn't in any prior season that got introduced with this technology was the reason a fan favorite character ended up dead. And I'm sure there's going to be people saying that Joe could have continued on, and I agree with that. Joe probably could have lasted that round, maybe even the next round. Hell, Joe might have won, but winning was never what this match was about. For someone like Mac, he wanted to win. He needed to win in his mind, given everything, let him be free, let him move on, right? But the idea for Joe was he told him, Hsieh, throw in the towel, I want to come back home. If you think I'm in danger, don't do because I want to continue fighting. Joe's the type of selfish fighter that even when he's getting impaled, he keeps moving forward because he's having fun. That's who he is as a character. And Hsieh was about to let Joe do what he wanted, but he was reminded of Nanbu. And he's lost enough, he threw in that towel. It's not a matter of could Joe have beaten him. It's not a matter of should Hsieh have thrown it in right then and there. It was a matter of survival. There's a guaranteed survival chance of Hsieh throwing in the towel at that moment. There isn't if he continued to let him fight. What if he got cracked in the head in the wrong way and never woke up, right? There's so much potential, I think, for a Season 3, should they ever pursue it, but they don't need to. Similar to how I felt, I would even say more so than when I walked out of Season 1, satisfied, complete. I know some people got mad that they didn't see the end of the match, we only learned of the results. Hopefully this episode will satisfy those people who weren't happy in Season 1 when we didn't get to see the full match. Though the fighting choreography wasn't, I would say, as sharp as some of the series' best, I still think it served its purpose, and I think probably is more satisfying in the eyes of the masses than maybe Season 1's final fight. But I think, should they pursue a Season 3, it's not a matter of would Joe be the main character. Joe said he's retiring, and I firmly believe that. Hsieh is going to be probably a world-class mechanic. I do think there's a lot of potential for maybe Team Nowhere's gym to train an up-and-coming fighter. What if we followed Joe as someone as old as Nanbu was, with Hsieh being a really well-earned and well-trusted mechanic, a new character? There's definitely more story in the Megalo Box universe that they could tell. And given the departure of Tomorrow's Joe that Season 2 took, there's a lot of hints to big plot points in that series that this was seemingly going to take, but instead they went with their own direction. This isn't a show that needs more seasons just to keep the cash rolling or just to stretch out a story. Season 1 felt like an ending to me. Season 2 feels like even more of a conclusive ending for me. But given the way the team behind this production handles its characters, I could see new stories. I could see, bringing back familiar faces like Joe and Hsieh, while still putting the focus on new characters that are going to be just as memorable. Chief, my favorite character in Megalo Box. Mac, a very close second. If I was to rank my favorite characters, Chief at number 1, Joe at number 2, honestly, Mac at number 3. 2 of my favorite top 3 characters were introduced in this season, one of which had only a handful of episodes before his death, and the other I thought was just going to be an arrogant asshole who then would kill our main character, became one of the most lovable family men I've ever seen in anime. This episode had one thing left to prove, I feel like anyway. Whatever happens, is it good for the story? Does a death mean, something satisfying happens? Because I feel like often when you have anime, death is there for shock value. Nanbu's death wasn't there for shock value. It was there to show that not everyone lives forever, and how do people deal with that loss. Joe or Mac ending up dying there, what would that serve? Hsieh would have to, and all of them would be so crushed if Joe lost. Someone like Mac, he has a family, like, he doesn't deserve to die. So what would both of these characters, who no longer are trapped by health issues, we have someone actually monitoring it, saying, if I go into Mac time, throw in the towel for me. I want to fight Joe with my own skill set. Joe already made the agreement with Hsieh. Throw in the towel if you're worried. I want to come back alive. What would a death serve here? Nothing. It would have been for shock value, and I'm glad they didn't go that route. Deaths and pain and things like that, they do work. But here, I don't think we needed it, and that's why I'm glad the Nomad Hummingbird story ended in the way that it did. This wasn't, I think, the best directed fight we've ever seen in Megalo Box. I definitely think there's been a lot better. But I think what counters it is the fact that we go back and forth seeing all the pieces click. We see this horrible scumbag finally get what's coming to him. We get this technology that is revolutionary. This technology shouldn't be pushed away and swept under the rug. It should just be repurposed. And I'm glad to see that it's going to be used for health purposes rather than military. There's probably a lot less risk of something like Mac time going against a person just trying to live a normal life than throwing it with soldiers on the battlefield. It will be studied. It will be fixed. It's perfect to see all that come together. And that's why I love to see that, even Nambu, the ghost that haunted Joe for so long, is now back as we remember him. Even though he wasn't really there, even though it was just more of like Joe kind of moving on, it was a very sweet way to wrap it all up. And, I am firmly suspecting we'll never see a season 3. I feel that way. I feel like they'll move on and the creators and everyone will do their own thing. But I don't think it's impossible to do a season 3, and should they do it, there's absolutely more ways to do it. There's new characters, you can repurpose characters like Joe being more of a mentor similar to Yuri, Hsieh being a mechanic. He never wanted to be a boxer. I know I've seen a lot of people keep saying, if there's a season 3, I want to see Hsieh box. He's not a boxer. That was never his purpose. The only reason he picked it up to begin with was to fill the hole that Joe left, right? This season is a masterpiece to me, and people can feel differently. That's perfectly acceptable, but for me, I'm firmly convinced that this will be my anime of the year. I firmly just think it's so perfect. I love the production, even when it's not the best animated at times. The aesthetic really holds it together. The character writing across the board, seeing everyone come back home. I mean, this was a season about healing and a show about boxing. While there definitely was boxing, the real fights were on the emotional side, and I think that's why so many connected with Season 2 even more than, say, Season 1, because, Season 1 was a lot more focused on the actual boxing, the underdog story, and it was amazing. I still think Season 1's a masterpiece. I just think Season 2's in a different league of its own. And combined, I'm excited to rewatch Season 1 and 2 back to back, and it's going to be a hell of a ride. Without a doubt, my favorite show I reviewed this season, my favorite show I watched this season, and probably one of my favorite shows I've ever covered on my channel. I hope to see more in the future, but if not, this is a great finale. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on the ending and just the episode in general down below. If you liked the video, drop a like to help promote the video, and of course subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.